Hey, welcome back, guys. What a crazy way to end an episode. Raising Kanan's 8th offering concluded tragically, leaving in question the life of one of the show's most beloved characters, one whose narrative was just starting to take a turn for the better. Additionally, we saw a dramatic tide change between two mothers and their respective offspring, a change for the absolute worst in both cases. I'm here to break it all down in typical Top 10 WTF fashion. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, big thank you to all of my channel donors. If you'd like to be the next one, drop $1 on that Cash App for us. And lastly, a spoiler alert is now in effect for all things Power. Here we go. WTF moment number 10. I'm dying. Dominic, fresh out of a botched hit that cost Marco his life, stumbles the streets until he finds a nearby hospital. The bloodied made man utters 2 words upon making it into the hospital lobby. I'm dying, and then promptly collapses before a small, shaken audience. With how his inevitable fate panned out, he probably wished he just died right there in that moment. WTF moment number 9, a threat and a promise. Rock promptly pulls up to Palomar's residence and informs the scandalous woman that she's coming to the knowledge of her exploits with Kanan and commands that she stay away. The alluring mother in heat feigns ignorance and briefly displays an apparent disregard for hearing, which Rock restores real quickly courtesy of a pistol to the dome. Now having regained her good sense against the cold steel, Palomar agrees to stay away from her new young prey under the threat of death. WTF moment number 8. Convinced yet? Apparently it's pull-up day in the Thomas family household, and no one told us. Lulu approaches that shady radio DJ from earlier this season who disrespected him with Crown's blessing. He was in the midst of reneging on playing Zisa's record, despite being amply compensated for the job, and added further insult to injury by coming at Zisa in the spirit of Kells. Out of patience for the sleazy display, the younger Thomas forced a banger not against his head like Rock, but in his mouth, inspiring a swift change in conduct by the radio man, who agrees to lose terms regarding Zisa's latest opus. WTF moment number 7, Christians of the Corn. We all suspected it would go bad, but nothing like this. Jukebox skips school on her mother's invitation and obliges in hopes of spending another day with the previously estranged matriarch. What she received was possibly worse than she could have ever imagined, because once arriving at Kenya's place, she's greeted by not just her mom, but the entire flock of her church, their intentions fueled by pure zealotry. Then, Juke is restrained by one of the members in a chair and forced to watch several explicit displays, both hetero and homosexual in nature, while being castigated by the lead pastor, who this commentator was never fond of, if we're being honest. The shocking display is accompanied by narration from a somber grown Kanan, who includes this traumatic event in her mounting villain origin story. This was arguably the hardest scene to watch since her and Marvin's violent altercation from season 1, and tragically contextualized just what created the monster we met back in Power season 3. WTF moment number 6, final warning. Howard meets with the captain and expresses his concern over Burke's independent crusade against him. The captain, equally exhausted by the overzealous nature of his subordinate, calls her in for a checking of the highest order. The scolding was well overdue and very much warranted. Had to admire Captain Baptiste flexing his pimp hand in the matter, and moreover, trying to essentially save Burke's career and life. The moment had an air of last resort in its tone, as in, if Burke continues in the spirit of violation, she may not make it out of this season. WTF moment number 5, Dead by Dawn. Sal is furious upon learning of Dominic's involvement in his son's death. He poses as a supporter to his rogue soldier long enough to gather intel on what led to the robbery in the first place. Dom informs the Jersey boss that it was Marvin who enlisted them to conduct the hit. This info enrages Sal and encourages him further to permanently remove Dominic by way of the pillow. WTF moment number 4, a motherless child. Juke and Marvin await Kenya's presence in order for the patriarch to confront her following that sick religious episode against Juke. Marvin scolds his former lover and reminds her of her own sinful past, inspiring a slap in the name of Jesus. Before the elder Thomas could revert to old demons, Juke intervenes and surprisingly acknowledges her father by that coveted title of Dad. She too rebukes her mother and reinstalls the estranged aspect of their relationship indefinitely. WTF moment number 3, a balanced dilemma. Sal arranges a solo meeting with Rock in order to outline new terms with the Queen Pen about Marvin's future for his role in Marco's death. Sal expresses his expectations reasonably, likely thinking that his terms will be completely understandable by Rock in the spirit of fairness and respect. However, much to his dismay, Rock rebuffs the Jersey mobster's sense of self-righteousness and entitlement, relaying that despite his loss, the Thomas family doesn't owe him a thing, especially one of their own. After a brief dispute over her masculine posturing, the two depart on opposite ends of the moral scale, ends that will be bridged by the conclusion. WTF moment number 2. One last crown. The police are shown en masse recovering a dead body from the river. This corpse turns out to be none other than Crown Camacho, who's also linked to Lou's label Bulletproof Records. Crown's discovery could provide major blowback for Lou, who's already experienced his fair share this season, but it also provides an opportunity for an ever-conniving Rock to reassert her stance on the throne in a major way. I'll expound more on this in the next one. And WTF moment number 1, a hit of the good stuff. Marvin seeks out Miss Renee in order to update her on his evolution and status. In almost a dreamlike sequence, Marvin accompanies Renee on a small walk, and the two exchange every nicety imaginable. Renee expresses how happy she is for Marvin's current triumphs, and a romance nearly ensues between the heavily flirtatious twosome. However, such positivity wouldn't last the night, or even that moment, because just as the two gained traction, a pair of mafia henchmen approached them with guns blazing, only preceding their onslaught with a single name. This was a tragic scenario in the worst way. Although this commentator believes Marvin survived, Renee was definitely not so lucky. Her demise was visible ever so slightly by the flash of blood that splashed directly after the shots from her side. If proved fatal, she'll be on the long list of Marvin's many regrets from his life of sin, a life he was trying to reconcile this season overall. Some lingering thoughts before we end today's video. The title of this episode is A House Is Not a Home, and it's an obvious nod to Luther Vandross' signature hit of the same era. But there's more substance in regards to our characters. The reality of broken bonds from parent to child was the theme of episode 8. Rock finally lost her son from an emotional standpoint, Sal lost his son from a physical standpoint, and Kenya lost her daughter from a spiritual standpoint. Sadly enough, Marvin was Juke's refuge and strength during her tribulations this go-round, only to have his life nearly stripped away by the Italians. That potentiality will only serve to double down on Juke's mental hardships, as her and her father were just beginning to mend broken fences, and her reaction to the attempt on Marvin's life will be interesting given all that we've seen. Howard is playing an intricate and subtle game of chess against his former partner and current nuisance, Bert. He appealed to the police captain for assistance in opposing her, but not before laying a major trap himself in the climax of episode 7, where he was seen by Jukebox visiting Nicole's father and further sullying Bert's self-righteous name. This led to the fury that rained down upon her during the chastisement scene, and she better take heed. As the good book says, warning goeth before destruction. Kanan's exchange with Juke resonates deeply with her, especially after experiencing a similar scenario with her mother Kenya, who did something horrible to her in the name of professing love for her. Rock has done the same to Kanan in different ways, and Juke understands as much. This is why she moved on from her former stance of defense to acceptance when it comes to Rock. She too has accepted what her mother became, and with such an acceptance comes a level of peace in the midst of turmoil. Juke is on the road to finding hers and wants the same for her beloved cousin based on what we were shown. And lastly, speaking of Kanan and Rock, their relationship is all but irreparable following that contentious exchange in the latter's new home. You can see therein that Kanan has graduated from simply being a pawn in Rock's master chess game. He's now fully invested and firmly planted on the board, at least a rook or a knight for all my chess aficionados. He was displaying to us that he could be just as insidious, conniving, and strategic as his mother. And these lessons are important ones to remember because they made him the Kanan we all knew and loved. And that'll do it for this one. What were your thoughts on Raising Kanan episode 8? Be sure to drop me your opinions in the comments below. As always, I thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, go ahead and drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are Power fans, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.